Guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today we're going to talk about which artifacts to put on which champions, how to build champions, touch on a few masteries as well. But quick disclaimer, there is no one-size-fits-all way to build any champion inside this game. It really depends on what you're trying to get out of this champion. Let me give you a couple examples of that before we jump into kind of the main context of the video today. We're going to go over kind of the key roles and how to build out in terms of what artifacts to look for against some masteries too for each of those roles on a team. But let me give you a couple examples. So number one, a very simple example is Reliquary Tender, right? You know, she has an ability, and we're going to talk a lot about accuracy in today's video and the importance of accuracy. She has an ability on Warden Staff, the weak version of Decrease Attack. That's the only reason that you need to build her with any accuracy. So, you know, some people want that Decrease Attack for bosses. They're struggling against the dragon, for example, and they really want that Decrease Attack. Other people might already have a Decrease Attack champion on the team, or might just not need that ability, so that would dictate whether or not you want to sacrifice accuracy when building this champion. So again, a better example probably is going to be Bellower. There's so many different ways to build Bellower. You can build him as a campaign farmer, put attack percentage boots on your Bellower, and not even care about accuracy at all. Or you can build him to be kind of a control champion. Build him like I have right now in a stun set because he has an AoE on every ability. Build him with high enough accuracy, and, you know, add a little bit of crit rate, a little bit of crit damage to this champion as well. And some people kind of go all out nuke. And of course, masteries are also going to play a role there. Tier 6 mastery, Fearsome Presence, fits alongside stun set artifacts. You don't have to memorize all this stuff, and I'll have an additional guide sometime in the future of different ways to build Bellower. The key takeaway here is there's many different ways to build these champions, and a lot of champions fall into these categories. I'll give you one more because there are so many to choose from, but Trunda Guiltmal, if you're building her for the arena, for example, you don't really care about landing the stun and the HP burn from this champion, so you can sacrifice accuracy. As a matter of fact, you don't want accuracy if you're just using Trunda as a dungeon nuker. Now, not everybody in this game, the majority of people in this game don't have the luxury of saying, okay, dude, well, I'm not going to build Trunda to only be useful in the arena. I pulled Trunda, she's one of my only legendaries. I want to use her everywhere. And that's kind of what this guide is going to be kind of catered towards. People who are using champions and don't have a million dupes of a million legendaries, but rather are trying to get the most utility out of their champions overall. So the first thing that you should look at when you pull a brand new champion, I'm just going to go ahead and target a champion that pick a champion that I have not built yet. Let's pretend we just pulled Dilgal, right? And we want to build him up. The first thing you should be looking at, guys, when building a champion is, do you need accuracy, okay? How do you figure out if you need accuracy? Well, the things you look for are obvious. You want to look for any debuffs that they're landing. So, for example, we're landing decreased accuracy on his shot spray. We also have a decreased defense on his big game hunter, so a decreased speed on his A1 as well. So we need to build accuracy into this champion to get the full value out of this champion. Quick kind of side note here. Turn meter manipulation, stealing buffs, removing buffs, all of these things are predicated on having high enough accuracy. How much accuracy is high enough inside this game? Well, the general rule of thumb is 10 accuracy for every level in the dungeon. So for level 20 dungeons, you're aiming for over 200 accuracy. For Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, you're aiming for 200 to 250 accuracy to land those poisons consistently, to land those debuffs consistently. So generally speaking, accuracy is going to be the first thing personally that I look at when trying to build a champion. Okay, so Dilgal, we want to build him up. We're definitely going to want that accuracy on this champion. So I'm going to have an accuracy banner already kind of ready to go in my mind to put on top of Dilgal because we want to land those debuffs. So accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. Now a quick kind of pivot here. Arena debuffers. All you really care about is speed and accuracy. You want them going before your Nuker on arena debuffers, your Madame Cereses, your Stag Knights, whatever. But you can put accuracy on their chest, on their because what I'm trying to say here is there's no such thing as too much accuracy on your arena debuffer. Again, a little pivot here. On your arena, because arena kind of follows its own rules as opposed to dungeons. Your arena speed booster, let's say Apothecary. all you care about, your Seeker, whoever it may be, the champion that's going first in the arena, your Arbiters, your Lysandras, whoever else you're using, that champion needs to have all speed, all out speed, right? So let me look. I don't even think I have anybody built out with all out speed on my entire account right now, but let's just pretend it's Apothecary. I wouldn't even care if this was a flat stat gauntlet on my Apothecary for the arena. I don't even care if it has a big speed roll. Let's just pretend this was 19 speed instead of 5 speed on this gauntlet. I don't care if this was an HP base stat artifact, right? That's why it's important when we talk about you pull speed gear after farming Dragon's Lair. You should always be rolling that up at least to level 4 if it has speed substats to see, hey, maybe this is an artifact that my speed booster on my arena team can use, because your arena team, especially if it's a speed arena farming team, is only as fast as your fastest character who can boost the rest of the team to kind of catch up to their speed, okay? We can get more into the minutia on speed, kind of building a team around your speed booster in future videos. So anyway, back to first thing you look at. Let's start with Kale, because everybody starts with Kale pretty much, right? So obviously, accuracy is going to be a huge factor in Kale. Then what do I think about? Okay, so I'm going to need accuracy. I want to build him. I want to start aiming for, you know, in the early game, whatever, 50, 100 accuracy. I just want him to be landing those poisons. He does so well with these poisons. We need to be landing them. That's where a lot of his damage comes from. And then after that, you want to identify what kind of class of character is this, okay? So let me break down the 4 classes of characters. There's more than this, but these are kind of the big 4. It's really kind of a big 3 in my opinion, but I did decide to include tanks as well, which aren't exactly meta right now in the game, but I think they deserve a mention. So Nuker. We're going to use Kale as a Nuker example in this video. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'll tell you the 4 right now, the 4 kind of classes of character generally speaking, and then we'll go through them one by one and talk about what artifacts to put on them. So Kale's a Nuker. We're going to build a kind of a support, an all-around support champion. We'll use, again, Reliquary Tender as an example there. Try to use all rares if we can here. And then a CC champion, kind of a crowd control type champion. You know what, I lied. Let's use an epic there. Let's use kind of like a miscreated monster as an example there. And then a tank champion. So again, a big lie. We're not going to use all rares at all. It doesn't really matter here because you're going to follow the same rules. Whether it's Greybeard or whether it's War Chief, you're going to be looking at the same time, the same kind of things. So we're going to talk about tanks, crowd control, all-out support champion, and Nukers in today's video. Let's start again back at Kale with Nukers. So the #1 most important artifact that you want to start considering after you account for the accuracy on any champion, regardless of whether they're a crowd control, debuffer type champion, we'll call those a hybrid class, or a tank, or a support champion, is do they need accuracy? It applies to everybody the same. And then after that, we want to be thinking about building that critical rate up to 100%. Okay, so #1 priority is getting their crit rate to 100%. Now, for most of you, that's going to necessitate putting crit rate gauntlets on those champions. The best source of critical rate is on the gauntlets. You should not be putting attack percentage or attack flat stat gauntlets on your Nukers. No. You want to go ahead and build them with critical rate. This is level 15. I need to, rank it up one more level, but you guys get the point. Best thing to think about, first area to think about is gauntlets. What gauntlets am I going to put on this champion? After that, it's really a matter of building up their critical damage and their attack percentage, providing their attack-based champion, while at the same time making sure that they have enough HP and defense to survive. Now, there's no magic number there. It's going to depend on your team, your champions, and your progression, right? So sometimes you might have to put your Kale, if you're struggling on, say, like, level 14 dungeon or something, you're going to have to put your Kale and be comfortable in putting him in an HP percentage or a defense percentage chest, and your accessories are a great source as well of getting extra HP and extra defense without having to swap out your chest, okay? So again, chest piece, think chest piece, think ring, and again, think a little bit on the amulet as well. Ideally, on your amulet, you're going to be putting critical damage on all of your Nukers. It just makes sense. More critical damage is really important. I actually value critical damage in a vacuum a little bit higher than I do attack percentage. So even if I have to sacrifice some attack percentage to add a little bit of durability to my champions, HP, defense, whatever, that's totally okay with me as long as I'm still aiming for as high crit damage as possible. possible. That brings me to my last point kind of on Nukers here, guys, is if you can, or I should say in the mid game, kind of leading into the end game of Raid Shadow Legends, after you're able to farm better artifacts, you want to be switching out your main kind of go-to Nukers from crit rate to crit damage on their gauntlets, and get your crit rate from the substats of other artifacts, as you see here on this weapon. So crit damage and then crit rate. That way they're just doing way more damage because you're prioritizing crit damage on the gauntlets, which is the best source for critical damage on these champions. Now on your attackers, as long as they're not only a campaign farmer, in which case you would put attack percentage on their boots, if they're going to be used in dungeons, in a variety of different areas in the game, you want to go ahead and put speed boots on your attackers. Just make sure they are slower than your debuffers, slower than your decreased defense, your weakened whatever champions that you want obviously going before your Nukers, especially in the arena, but it's just as important everywhere in the game. Last note on Nukers, I lied, is that against Clan Boss, your Nukers, especially a champion that applies poison like Kale, it's way more important to keep them alive, so I would definitely consider swapping out your attack percentage chest for a defense percentage chest if you're using them in Clan Boss. And Manplarium, take away the artifact swapping, that way it's easier to kind of fine-tune these champions, the artifact swapping silver cost, that way it's easier to fine-tune these champions depending on where you need them. In terms of masteries, obviously you have War Master, which you're probably going to be using the most. I don't know, it's a toss-up. Giant Slayer on triple hitting A1 champions like Apothecary, champions like that, Cold Heart, although Cold Heart actually prefers Flawless Execution. Flawless Execution on champions that do damage based on enemy max HP, like Cold Heart, like Septimus, like Husk, and Helm Smasher on your Dungeon Wave Nukers, your Arena Nukers, like Trunda Guilt Mallet and Seer. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next class of characters, and that is Support. Support are, in my opinion, the easiest type champions to build because most of them don't need accuracy, so you can just build them to be as fast as humanly possible. Another example is, and you know, we say Support and it encompasses a wide variety of champions like Apothecary too, who is also a speed booster and a support champion, and we have him half naked here. But you guys kind of get the point. Support champions like Reliquary Tender, we really just want them going very fast or taking multiple turns. In this case, we have Relentless set on them. Relentless Reflex generally works really well with support champions. Supports, again, are easy. You don't need accuracy. You're not super concerned with getting huge critical rate as you are with your Nukers, so you can just build them to be very tanky and survive, but also very fast. Your first priority on your speed boosters, your healers, your revivers, is to get them as fast as possible. That way they're healing, they're reviving, and they're buffing your team more and more often. A lot of buffs in these games are kind of, I don't know, strategically, but just the way things are, unfortunately, is they last kind of one turn less than the cooldown. What I'm trying to say is, say a champion has increased defense ability applied to all of your allies. Oftentimes, it might be on a 3-turn cooldown, but the buff only lasts for 2 turns. So if you have that champion very, very fast, you can actually get that buff to stay on the other champions more than 2 turns because that champion's so fast that they're almost lapping the other allies on the team. So Reliquary Tender is actually a little bit slow. I'd ideally like to have her at 250 speed or even faster on the team just to do more of what she does best and do it more often. Well, that's kind of redundant, but you guys get the point. Removing all debuffs from all allies and then placing continuous heals, yeah, we want her doing that as much as possible. That's why we went with a Relentless set, so she has an 18% chance of getting an extra turn every single time she goes. So again, on your support champions, pretty easy. Defense percentage on the gauntlets, HP percentage on the gauntlets to keep them alive, same thing with the chest, and with the boots, speed is obviously going to be the way to go there. Obviously, you're looking for speed from the banner as well. You can see I have a very, very nice banner here on my Reliquary Tender. A banner is a great sneaky source of speed to add to your character, and obviously just putting them in all speed sets. If you have the gear, farm your dragon dungeon, get that speed gear, don't buy it from the shop, don't do it, and that's a great way to kind of build your support champions. It's a good idea to get a little bit of damage out of your support champions, and a great option for doing so is to go with the War Master mastery. War Master, even though they're not damage dealers, it's a little counterintuitive counterintuitive, especially for new players, but putting a War Master on a, I guess not Apothecary because he's going with Giant Slayer, but on a champion like Reliquary Tender is going to help you out a long way. Also going support tree, adding to their heals is a great option, just depending on the champion that you're using. So Lay on Hands and Healing Savior, kind of along the left side in Merciful Aid, are great to have on your healers inside this game. So next up is the CC champions. Now this really encompasses, well, I should say hybrid champions. This encompasses your kind of CC support type champions like Miscreated Monster. The reason we say CC is crowd control because he has a great stun. Maybe not the best example. There's probably way better examples, like for example, Umbral Enchantress. Where is she? Right there. So she has a provoke. Again, we're basically immobilizing the entire enemy team, right? So another kind of putting in the same category is debuffers, because both of these champions, both these classes of champions are really going to be relying heavily on accuracy, and that should be the first thing that you look at. So let's just take a look here at Stag Knight as an example here. He is a debuffer. We're going to call him a hybrid class champion. The first thing that I look at is accuracy. So again, accuracy banner on these champions is going to be important unless you can get that accuracy, as I have on my Stag Knight, to over 200 or so, depending on where you're using him. Doom Tower, again, Doom Tower in Arena, all bets are off on accuracy. You just want to go all out accuracy. But if you can get it to 200 plus without having to use your banner, go ahead and do so. That's more of an end game strategy, mid game strategy, so don't feel kind of bad or whatever if you're not able to do that. Other than that though, on these champions, you can sometimes build them to get extra utility on the team. What do I mean by that? Either as a second damage dealer, because some of these champions actually put out decent damage, such as Stag Knight, or you can try to get some shield sets and build a little bit extra HP off these champions. So I like to put my debuffers, if I can, in a shield set. Just helps keep my teams alive, and even if I'm a whale, even if I'm already farming level 20 dungeons, it just affords you the luxury of being even more squishy, essentially putting Stag Knight with not any healers on the team, because you don't need healers on the team because he's in a shield set, right? So the more kind of utility you can get out of any champion, doesn't just have to be your hybrid kind of debuffer class, the better overall, and it allows you to work more efficiently on the rest of the champions surrounding that champion. So again, on this champion, well, yeah, usually you're going to be getting your accuracy from your banner. That should be your first priority. After that, think to yourself, okay, should I build them up with high HP? Should I try to get and again, we're looking at their skills. Okay, 2 debuffs, we need accuracy, okay? Should I get some speed? Yes. So that's one thing we haven't talked about on your debuffers and on your CC champions, especially your debuffers. Again, like we talked about on the Nukers, you want these champions to be going before your Nukers all the time. So for that reason, you want to build them faster than your Nukers. Generally speaking, it should go something like your speed booster going first, your debuffers going second, your buffers going third, and then your Nukers going last. Of course, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but generally speaking, that's kind of what you want to keep as a rule of thumb. So I have my Stag Knight in a shield set. I have a nice shield based on his HP, 30% of his HP every single round on all of my allied champions. I'm building them up with a lot of accuracy, and you can see on my Stag Knight, if we look at the total stats, he has almost 100% crit rate and a little bit of crit damage. We don't have to kill ourselves worrying and stressing about crit damage on these champions, but it's nice to get, 800,000 damage out of my Stag Knight in level 20 dungeons as kind of a second or third wave, well, not wave, but second or third nuker in terms of overall damage output on my team. Now, last but not least, and we'll be quick with this one because, again, tank class is not super meta right now, but there's a lot of good examples. I apologize for using a legendary, but essentially a war chief like champion, right? Or a rock breaker type champion, or a graybeard for a rare example type champion. These are champions ideally who have a lot of defense and have a provoke already in their kit. If they don't, you can put them in a provoke artifact set. Artifact sets, whether they're poison, provoke, whatever, are not predicated on having a lot of accuracy. The set proc is 18% no matter what. It's not based on your accuracy. Of course, you can bump that up to 23% by getting Fearsome Presence Mastery. Speaking of masteries, here's Fearsome Presence right here. An extra 5% chance of landing, stun, sleep, freeze, fear, true fear, provoke. All the really, really strong crowd control abilities in the game. On your tank champion, There's kind of two ways to go about this. If they're an HP-based tank champion, you can go ahead and put them in a shield set, get extra utility out of them, and just have them as kind of this really big, massive tank on your team. Of course, that only really works if they have a provoke already in their kit, because what use is a tank on your team if they're not getting targeted? Otherwise, if you don't have a provoke already in their skill sets, in their actual champion abilities, well, you're going to have to consider putting your tank champion with low HP. That way they're targeted, but a very, very, very high defense, okay? So that's how you build a kind of a tank type champion. And again, putting them in that provoke artifact set, or the taunting set is what it's called, is a great option as well. Two masteries I just want to flag for you guys really quickly here are Selfless Defender, decreases the damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round by 20%. This champion will receive that damage instead. Well, what a perfect mastery for kind of a tank on your team, eating up that damage with a super high defense, not going to take as much damage because of their defense, and saving your allies at the same time. Another ability that I want to focus on, or mastery, a great tier 6 option is Bulwark. Decrease the damage all allies receive by 5%. This champion will receive that damage instead. So think about it. Bulwark mixed with Selfless Defender, I mean, you're taking 20% from the first hit, and that's nice too, because usually that first hit, it kind of can be challenging because your buffers hadn't had a chance to go and get all those increased defense, those shields, whatever on your champions. So having, say, a shield set and having something, or at least one of your champions with a Selfless Defender, really helps out a lot. So guys, other than that, you're just building these champions to be an absolute beast of a tank. So defense percentage on your chest. Of course, you can go critical rate as I have on my gauntlets. Usually still want speed boots on these champions. So guys, I don't want to extend this video too long, but I hope that kind of gives you some ideas on how to build your champions. Of course, we didn't talk about the top row of artifacts, but it's always the same. Attack on the weapon, HP on the helmet, and defense on the shield. But of course, you're looking for those substats as we talked about in each of these kind of champion classes. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. And as always, take care, guys.